Hello, welcome back to Playing with Newton's Laws. I'm here with one of my colleagues, Miss Hearn. We're going to play my newest game in the collection. I haven't even played this one yet. It's called Gravity's Edge. And the objective is to pull these little weighted dealies out and place them on the different ledges in a weird balanced spot and not be the person who causes all the pieces to fall off the gigantic tree. So we're going to be playing together here in a moment. And while we do, I'm going to be explaining Newton's laws. So here we go. Apparently, the youngest person goes first, and she's got me by a year or two, so I get to go first. Would you like red or green?
Green.
Green? Okay, so I'll play reds. Okay. First thing you always have to do is you have to take it out. But what you're noticing here is Newton's first law. If I don't touch this, an object at rest will remain at rest. This whole thing is not moving at all. That's Newton's first law of motion. However, the stipulation is that until an unbalanced force acts on it, well, the weight of this becomes a gravity force, and it causes just a slight movement overall. And as we get more and more unstable, you're going to notice more and more. Okay? And once it starts to move, it'll start to tilt and move. Newton's first law, an object in motion will remain in motion. You can just play while I'm talking. Objects in motion will remain in motion unless it is acted upon. And you're noticing that that's exactly what's happening. It starts to shake and it starts to rumble. And these pieces have almost no friction. So you see that they're constantly shaking and they take a while to slow down. There's friction, a small amount of force of friction does act on them. But for the most part, they don't move very much at all once they start to move, but it takes them a long time to slow down. Now, Newton's second law states that a force is required to accelerate a mass. In this case, we're using our muscular force to accelerate them up to wherever we want them. But we also see that our force is accelerate them, the weight, their gravitational force, their weight is causing them to shift the entire tower a little bit at a time.
If there are any careless.
And so that weight is a force that is accelerating the mass of this whole object to tilt. You see, just by removing the weight, that is reducing the mass. And so the weight over here, oh my goodness, fell all right away. Look at that. So technically that would have been a win, but I still have a few more forces to explain on this one. So we're going to keep playing here by putting them all back into a kind of a generally balanced position here. And hopefully it'll get it pretty close. But Newton's third law of motion states that for every force, there is an equal and opposite force. And we see that a lot with this tilting. By pushing down on this side, we see some lifting up. By lifting up on one side, we see some tilting. So this mass that's weighing down over this side, notice how by removing that mass, the mass was pushing down before. By lifting it up, we see that the force was holding it up. So that normal force that was holding it up earlier becomes unbalanced. And we see this huge change as the whole piece reacts to the whole system. So these up and down, and as we start getting more and more imbalanced, by placing something on one of these pillars, we're going to notice that force is going to start lifting it down and it's going to tilt down. But we also see that it's trying to balance itself up. So this back and forth waving, that is Newton's third law in action. For every force, there is an equal and opposite force. Ooh, look at that. Super equal and opposite. Let's see if I can get a little bit of control on that one. Not doing a ton. See what Miss Hearn does right here. This is a crazy balancing game. So Newton's first law, an object at rest will remain at rest. If we don't touch this, it's going to stay like this virtually forever. But an object in motion will remain in motion. And you notice as we start moving this thing, how slowly it returns back to a stable position. Whoa. That one's not coming out. How slowly it returns back to this stable position. Right here, the whole thing just starts to shake. And even these pieces, objects in motion remain in motion. The only thing slowing them down is this tiny little point of friction, less than a millimeter wide. So they literally bounce and wobble and move this whole time quite a bit. And once this thing, notice it's spinning, only a tiny amount of friction on the inside that's actually keeping it balanced too. So pretty crazy. A force is accelerating a mass. Every time we add weight to it or remove weight, we're seeing this whole change. That's accelerating the whole piece. We're also using our muscular force to accelerate the individual pieces into a position. Oh my goodness. Miss Hearn is really good at not winning at this game, but thank you so much for appearing with me. Playing with Newton's laws. This is gravity's edge, and it is crazy hard.